Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. The Monroe County Election Board met on August 1st. Starting things off, County Clerk Nicole Brown gave a summary of the primary election's attendance.
I just want to recap from the primary. If you're into numbers, we had 4,713 people to walk in during the absentee and early voting at the election operations. 55 people voted by travel board. The mail that was sent, ballots that were sent by mail was 1,384, and of those that were returned, 1,216, which means that there were 168 ballots that were not returned by mail. For the emails that were sent out, 65, 31 were returned, and 34 were not returned. Moving on to Election Day, the number of people who checked in to vote on Election Day was 9,719. Those issued provisional ballots, 42. The Election Board moved to reject 27, and we accepted 15. So your total Election Day turnout was 14,432 of, at the time, 9,357 registered voters. This represents a percentage of 15.8% of voters voted in our Monroe County primary.
Next, the board heard an update from the Vote Center Study Committee. Representing the committee was committee member Ami Gandhi to share what the committee has been working on.
Our study committee has been hard at work and has had multiple sessions hearing from different communities, including a town hall session in Ellettsville recently, last week, I believe. And that was a good opportunity to hear some questions from community members about how would vote centers work. There are draft minutes from that meeting as well. I know that a couple of you are familiar with that meeting and may like to share more insights or observations from that as well. We also saw on your agenda for this meeting that you wanted to hear about our next meeting date. It's August 14th, and we're happy to hear your thoughts about the one vacancy that we're aware of that we have that needs to be filled, and if you have any updates on that or if you're seeking updates from us. And then last but not least, I wanted to mention that we have an outline together, thanks to the hard work of some of our committee members, of what the report and analysis would look like. And if you haven't seen that yet, and if anyone is interested in seeing that, let us know. We have a really modest period of time for the committee members to weigh in if they want to see anything more explored in that report that we're putting together. And that time period is about a week longer, a little over a week longer, that people can continue to fine-tune what the outline should look like, so that we have all the information in there that we need to.
They have more meetings planned around the county to reach more members of the community.
I know for sure that we are planning to have a meeting in Unionville, and then also we're looking at having one at Highland Park Elementary for the west side of town, and then we plan to go to IU's campus once the students are back, and then we had discussed possibly having one here at Nat U Hill for the inner city people as well.
Board member John Fernandez suggested that they could present at the city council meetings to raise awareness as well.
Once things get further along, even presenting at, the city councils, the county councils, and all those during their, public sessions, just to raise awareness. And because I agree that, this could be a really important innovation for our community in terms of providing better access to democracy, but making sure people are aware of it and hopefully build enthusiasm around it, because it could, in my view, it could be a real positive step forward.
Fernandez also suggested reaching out to the IU student government to better reach the student population. Election Supervisor Kylie Moreland shared that the voter registration office was planning on going to the IU student government and that the Vote Center Committee could go with them.
I know me personally for the voter registration office, I plan to meet with PACE to go to one of their events on campus. And I think including the Vote Center Committee to that would be absolutely fantastic because it's also them that would be affected by this and it would affect them in a good way because we have so many students that are going to IMU to vote on election day and then being told that that's not their location.
Yeah.
So they either need to vote provisional, but it's not going to count, or otherwise they need to go to their polling site. And we had a student come in that told us their concerns about not being a vote center. They spent over an hour trying to commute from their dorm to Bloomington North to vote, to then get back on a bus to come back to their dorm. So for them, it would help in the long run, but it's also having the input from our community itself.
They also discussed filling 2 positions on the Vote Center Study Committee. Moreland said that committee member Hal Turner had to step down due to health complications, and Taylor Bryant also stepped down. Benkart shared that Bryant asked William Ellis to take their place on the committee. Clerk Brown shared that if members of the public are interested in filling Turner's position, they should reach out to her.
This would be a wonderful public opportunity to request that anyone interested in representing that segment on the Vote Center Committee. I would be happy, because that was my appointment to make. I would be happy to meet with them and look at replacing them. And my only concern, I have no problem with this, but my only concern in case there are future dropouts is that it would almost be unfair. At some point, I think we need to look at whether it would be fair to bring somebody in after all of the discussion that we've had and ask them to weigh in. And I don't know what that looks like. But right now, I'm very happy and open to a replacement, to appointing a replacement for Mr. Turner's.
Next, the board discussed the letter that they received from District 2 Monroe County Commissioner candidate Randy Cassidy detailing his resignation from the campaign. Clerk Brown urged the board to act on the matter quickly due to the time crunch of the upcoming election.
We are in an incredible time crunch at this time, and it just felt, I only have one reference to this. We've only had one other incident of which I am aware, where we had to take a look at this. We are in a time crunch. We have got ballots to be ready to go. Like the nation, we are waiting on the announcement of someone at the top of the ticket. And so I would just respectfully ask that the board, that this not be something that we drag out.
Sure.
It not be we've got a time crunch, and I think the decisions need to be made very quickly.
Cassidy was in attendance at the meeting and spoke on the decision to suspend their campaign.
I was recently advised that my candidate filing for District 2 Monroe County Commissioner narrowly missed the 6-month residency requirement, and it's resulting in my inability to run. I accept the determination and am therefore suspending my campaign effective immediately. It's unfortunate the voters of Monroe County won't have an opportunity to decide on their representation in District 2, but I believe that everyone in the election process must abide by the rules as specified.
The board also discussed the early voting schedule and the location of polling sites. Clerk Brown shared the early voting hours.
The 2024 general early voting hours, of course, it will take place at Election Operations, which is the old Napa Building, 302 South Walnut, from October 8th to 11th, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., October 14th to 18th, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., October 21st through the 25th, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., October 26th will be our first Saturday of early voting, that mandated Saturday before, and that is from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. October 28th to November 1st, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. November 2nd, which is that second Saturday just before Election Day, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then Monday, November 4th, 8 a.m. to noon. And then if you have not taken advantage of early voting hours, by noon on November 4th, you will vote at your regular polling site on Election Day.
The next meeting of the election board will be held on September 5th. The Bloomington City Council met on July 31st after a summer recess. During the council reports section of the meeting, the council deliberated on filling the vacancy of the council attorney position. The vote concerned whether to allow the deputy attorney, Ash Kulak, to serve as interim council attorney. Parliamentarian Hopi Stosberg walked through the proposal.
Our committee met 3 times over the summer to get the job description posted. We've actually had 2 postings for that. The first posting had applications due on July 14th, and we received 3 applicants that had the necessary qualifications, i.e. were attorneys. And so we relisted it, and this new job posting closes next Wednesday, August 7th. And so our next meeting is going to be Friday the 9th so that we can assess the applications that we have gotten at that time. So because of the length at this point of the hiring process, we are estimating that we're going to be without that council administrator attorney position for about 2 months. So through August and probably most, if not all of September, depending on how interviews manage to get scheduled, depending on if we have enough applicants, et cetera, after the second round comes to a close. So due to that extended vacancy, the committee thinks it's in the best interest of council to officially appoint an interim council attorney and administrator for that time. And so yesterday when we met, we approved to recommend Deputy Attorney Ash Kulak as the interim for that period of time, which would officially start next Monday, August 5th, because that's when pay periods start. And that position has HR let me know that the administrative standard this year has been interims make about 85% of the official salary for that position. So because of that, and hopefully I explained that well, I'm going to move that we I'm going to get to my right screen that has my motions on it. I'm going to move to appoint Deputy Attorney Ash Kulak to that position of interim council administrator and attorney beginning August 5th until such time as the position of council administrator attorney is filled at that interim salary of $88,400 per year.
Councilmember Matt Flaherty asked whether the hiring committee has checked with the city's Human Resources Office on the salary for the position. Stosberg clarified that the hiring committee had coordinated with Human Resources.
The 85% figure of what the salary was for the former attorney, that's under the guidance of HR, that level.
Yes, that's correct. I consulted with HR about it. I made sure with the controller's office that was all kosher and everything looked good. And yeah, so that is at the blessing. And I also did kind of what I'll consider due diligence and talked to Margie Rice about the idea of any other potential interim, but of course it makes sense for somebody who is essentially already doing that job. And one of the reasons why we as a committee thought that this was important is that there are going to be more responsibilities that fall on Deputy Attorney Kulak's shoulders during this time, whether or not we make them an official interim, and that it just felt fair to compensate them in some way for the additional time that they're going to be spending, and also to make it official that they're like a touch point for the council office in terms of the public and also in terms of other departments in the city being able to reach out to them as a gateway to council business.
The council voted 8-0 to appoint Ash Kulak as interim council administrator. Then the council heard a first reading of an appropriations ordinance. The ordinance would allocate additional money from the Food and Beverage, General and American Rescue Plan Act funds and would approve of a revised 2024 budget for the Monroe County Capital Improvement Board, or CIB. The CIB oversees the affairs of the Monroe Convention Center and its expansion. City Clerk Nicole Bolden read the ordinance by title and synopsis only.
Appropriation Ordinance 2024-02 to additionally appropriate food and beverage tax funds, general fund dollars, and ARPA state and local fiscal recovery fund dollars for 2024, and to approve of a revised 2024 budget for the Monroe County Capital Improvement Board of Managers. Am I looking? Yes, okay. The synopsis is as follows. This ordinance provides permission to spend additional food and beverage, general and ARPA funds in order to provide funds in 2024 for the Capital Improvement Board, for the clerk of the City of Bloomington, and to ensure that the Housing and Neighborhood Development Department has room in its budget to reabsorb and spend ARPA funds that may be returned by the United Way of Monroe County and heading home.
The City Council will vote on the ordinance at a future meeting. The Bloomington City Council will convene for its next regular session on August 7th. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
I will not be another statistic.
I will fight for myself.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc.
Welcome back to CATSweek. The Monroe County Board of Commissioners met on July 31st. Health Administrator Lori Kelly gave an update on the Health Department, saying that COVID-19 related emergency visits have increased slightly.
Emergency room visits for COVID-like illnesses have continued to increase slightly as of July 23rd, but we have not seen any increases in wastewater concentrations. August is National Immunization Awareness Month, which highlights the importance of vaccinations for all ages. Our public health clinic has vaccines available. You can call 812-353-3244 for more information.
Next, the Commissioners heard a resolution outlining remonstration for the expansion of the Monroe Fire Protection District. This resolution would add Bean Blossom Township to the county's Fire Protection District. Town Attorney Jeff Cockrell outlined the resolution.
The actual document will have a few changes. There are a few typos that were in this document that will be corrected. The first whereas clause will read, the Monroe County Fire Protection District with the Bean Blossom Township trustee have requested that the township be included in the Fire Protection District. It will also, on the Exhibit A, it will indicate that the merger of the Bean Blossom Township Steinsville Volunteer Fire Department will be what's read on it, because that's the actual name of the entity. Essentially, this is designed to kind of mimic everything that we've done with the other expansions of this. I think in the initial case, it was seen as both a financial and a burden to the residents to have each of the townships who are currently members of it have to fill out the postcard and mail it back. So what the plan has been and what's exemplified in here is that has to happen in this case, Bean Blossom Township. They will have to follow those statutory guidelines. They'll get the cards and have the people fill out so that you have a demonstration that the township is interested in joining the Fire Protection District. But there's also a second where if 50 members anywhere within the district, including the territory being added, voice a remonstration, let them know that they do not want this to occur, then that will trigger a public hearing as well. So the residents will know, because there'll be at least three public meetings that are noticed in accordance with the state law as to, and then there'll be presentations on what it means financially, what it means service-wise, and things of that nature.
Commissioner Penny Githens asked what the timeline looks like for the project. Bean Blossom Township Representative Ron Hudson responded that it's unclear at the moment.
Yes, I've already, I have made contact with Baker Tilly to do the study, which will do a impact study on the township. And I have not contracted with them yet because of the prices they sent me. So I have to speak with her and do a little more clarifying on that, because the prices she sent me was upwards of $15,000 plus. I would have to come up with postage and everything for the mailers, so which we have it in. As we can do that out of our general fund, but I just don't want to do any more than we have to. So, and I believe that only property owners can vote on it, yea or nay. So.
The commissioners voted unanimously in supporting the resolution. The next Monroe County Board of Commissioners meeting will happen on August 7th. At the Bloomington Board of Public Works meeting on July 30th, the board heard a request from F.A. Wilhelm for sidewalk and alley closure and metered parking lane reservation and adjacent to 400 East 7th Street. Engineering field specialist Kyle Baugh gave some background information on the request.
F.A. Wilhelm is going to be doing the former Poplars site. They are requesting sidewalk closures on the east, north, and west side of the property, along with the parking lane closures on the east and west sides there. And they are also requesting a closure of the east-west alley on the south side of the property. This closure is planned to be in place from August 12th of this year to November 4th of this year. It is the first phase of 4 phases of the construction process for the building. And I alluded a little bit in the work session yesterday that we're still ironing out the closure details for those other 3 phases and the timelines for those, but we'll bring those as they come.
The board approved the request unanimously. The last item on the agenda was a contract with Browning Chapman, LLC, for the Walnut Street Garage Repairs Project. The board heard from parking garage manager Jess Goodman about the contract.
This is for the Walnut Street Garage repairs. This was an open bid. We had 2 bids on this. It was Browning and Chapman and Western Waterproofing. Browning and Chapman came in at $239,100. And Western came in at $245,631. If we don't have to remove the existing traffic coding in the garage, then the Browning and Chapman will be $190,100, and the Western will be $226,431. I recommend Browning and Chapman for this project. It's scheduled to end and be completed by mid-September once they get started on it.
The board approved the contract unanimously. The Board of Public Works will meet again on August 13th. At the Bloomington Utility Service Board meeting on July 29th, a Bloomington resident and utility customer asked the board to appeal a utility bill. The customer shared that their water bill was high due to a leak that occurred after they moved out of their apartment.
I moved out the 11th of May, sorry. I moved out the 11th of May out of 420 North Fest, that apartment we're leasing through Elkins. And I left at about noon. And then from that day until Memorial Day, water was gushing out of somewhere. There was Elkins people in the apartment that were fixing other things. They changed the toilet seat, but they didn't hear any water running or anything or say anything to us. And so we don't know where the water went. We don't really know that it's fair that Elkins was in there and they didn't notice either, but we're being blamed despite not being there. And since then, we've had, just last week, there was a day that water was running in 10 gallons every other hour, and we have no explanation for it. None of my roommates are living there. Elkins says that they don't know anything, so we don't really know what we're supposed to do and how it's fair that we're paying a water bill that we have really no control over at this point.
Assistant City Attorney Chris Wheeler said that according to Indiana law, they are only able to adjust the bill if the meter had been read incorrectly or if there was a meter error. Wheeler said that they tested the meter and did not find any issues. Wheeler said that from a legal standpoint, the utility department could not do anything. However, the dispute could be brought up between the landlord and the renter.
When you look at our rules, in Section 6, adjustment of bills, we are allowed to make adjustments when there is a meter error. And when under 6.2.1 of our rules and regulations, if the meter error is such that the customer is overcharged, showing because the meter is running incorrectly, calculating incorrectly, then we can compensate them for that overcharge. And if for some reason the meter is running too slow and undercharging, we would have the opportunity then to ask the customer to correct by paying more to the utility so that we could show the calculation of how much water the meter was undercharging. But it's only in those instances where we have a meter error that we are allowed to actually make that adjustment. If we had like a billing error where there was some kind of a billing error where we simply made a calculation, an accounting error, we could adjust that as well. But there's no indication that there was an accounting error or some other type of billing error, and the meter is operating correctly. So from the water perspective, we don't have any opportunity to provide any relief to the customer as requested. The customer then also has referenced that if you can show that there was a problem and the problem was fixed, then you might be able to get some relief. But what she's referring to there actually is on the wastewater side. So if we can show that somehow the meter had run and captured the water that goes through so that we know how much water came through, but before it reached the house, before it was used in the system and then went down the sewer, if there was a leak somewhere before it went down into the sewer, and you could show that and that it was corrected and the date of correction and the cost of all of the fixing, we could then do an adjustment on the wastewater side. But I don't believe that that's happened here either. So unfortunately, from a legal perspective and what the IURC expects of us as a municipal utility is that we simply don't have any mechanism for providing relief in this case. Now, there may have been a toilet that was running. It may have been fixed. There's some information that was shared that indicates that a valve was replaced on a toilet. And so it's possible that there was a problem. If the tenant and the landlord are having a dispute, it's between them, and this utility really can't get involved. So my recommendation legally to this board is that the request for the adjustment be denied.
The board unanimously voted to deny the request to appeal the utility bill. However, they did vote to waive the delinquent fees on the bill. Board member Megan Parmenter explained the result of the vote and that she hopes that they will be able to work out the issue with their landlord.
So your petition will be denied today, but we will definitely remove any delinquent fees, and we will be happy to have our staff work with you to work out a payment plan to get that taken care of. We encourage you to go back to your landlord. This seems like an issue that is on their end, and so I'm sorry that we're not able to help you today, but I hope that you can get that resolved with the landlord. And best wishes to you moving forward.
The next Bloomington Utility Service Board meeting will be held on August 12th. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.